Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, consistency is the word I wanted to say. I couldn't come back right away and make the video that I wanted to make, given the fact that I had run out of space because the videos that I was uploading were still uploading. So now I'm able to come back and finish that sentence, and it's literally like 30 minutes later, maybe even an hour later. But nevertheless, the video is this. We were talking about Christian Wood, and I was essentially telling everybody that I like Christian Wood as a player. I know how consistent of a player he can be scoring the ball. I've seen him at his best, and I'm not all down on him in regards to picking him up. I just don't know if he's going to have much of a role on the team, sort of like he had in Dallas. His minutes reduced just simply because of his defensive deficiencies and our coaches' sometimes unwillingness to play players who don't play well defensively at that position. He would much rather experiment with smaller lineups, and we have more variations of small ball lineups that can be effective with the way this team has been constructed. So I don't think we're going to play that center if he struggles. And that's why I don't even know if it really makes as much sense to invest so much in the center position, but rather in a guard position, and getting Bol, who is a guard who happens to be 7 feet. Now, I think that he's in the free agency as a center, but I'm telling everybody that's not his position. He's going to be much happier if you put the ball in his hands and treat him like he's a shooting guard. And so that's what I would do. I would put him at the shooting guard position or the small forward position and let him play his natural way, which is all around the perimeter, crossing people up and getting to the rim and creating plays that way. That's who he is, and he just so happens to be very tall. But I'm not going to treat him like he's tall. I'm going to treat him like he's his position, and the height is going to be of benefit to me while that is going on. And so that's the vision I have for Bol. Now, if he gets here and shows me he can't do that, then we find out he can't do that. But I think people are trying to make him a center, and as a result, he's probably not really into it. But if you allow him to be the unicorn that he is, let him shoot his threes, let him get his shooting guard play on, you're going to find out that's exactly who he is. And he's going to love playing that. So that's what it is for me. I'm putting him at the shooting guard, putting him at the three, obviously put him at the four, but he's going to be on the wing at all times, shooting the ball, just doing whatever he wants to do. And then from there, he's just going to have to learn principles that'll help him defensively, just like every other player who's weaker. But I think if you pick up Christian Wood, he's more so of a traditional center, and you'll get from him what he gives you offensively, which can be rather dynamic, especially when you're trying to run the score up. You just got to know when to get him out the game so he doesn't give those points back. And so if he plays better defense, and all of that doesn't have to be the case, but if you're trying to get the most out of him, you have to know that he's going to be a bad defensive player on the floor. So if he's not hot, then you know he's giving up a lot on the other end. And so is he going to get his rhythm going? How? With Anthony Davis on the floor, LeBron James on the floor, is he going to get his looks? Maybe he'll look for him. Austin Reeves will look for him. But you're going to have to. And so it's one of those situations where it's like, why am I doing all this for Christian Wood when I have so many other players that have to get in rhythm? It becomes a situation where it's like, if his deficiencies are too much, he won't get on the floor. So that's really what it comes down to. And I think it's specific to Darvin Ham. Now, in a nutshell, do I want to have that type of talent on the team at a low price? Of course. And so that is the simpler way of putting it. You probably do want him on the roster, but will you be able to feature him so that he can become a better player going forward, or so that he can, ultimately be something worth trading? I don't know. It becomes a situation where it depends on how we use him, and it depends on how well he plays when we do. So just like everybody else, truly. But yeah, that's what it really comes down to. We have to choose between the players. And because we have to choose between the players, I have to be adamant about the player that I'd rather choose. But I mean, at the end of the day, the Lakers have been very disciplined about what they're doing. And I think if they can make it make sense for them, they're going to do the right thing regardless of what else is going on, or whether other options may be seemingly available to all of us. They'll go after what makes sense to them. But I think the holdup is what's really interesting to me. I think there's a lot to be said for Christian Wood. And what's being said around him is he's waiting to see another offer other than a minimal offer, and he's yet to receive that. Now, if he gets an offer that's better than minimum, then he'll likely take that. But if not, then he'll take the minimum with the Lakers. So it seems to me that we're in the wing waiting on that decision. If he's not going to get offered anything more than the minimum, we're not bidding against anybody. It's going to be interesting to see, you have bringing him in. That'll be a great acquisition for the Lakers, and we're all out of here. If everything's on an up and up, that could explain why this is all taking its time. Maybe he's waiting to see what happens with Dame, whatever, James Harden. A lot of that could determine what teams have what. So, as I once mentioned in a video a few days ago, I wondered if the market's semi-locked up right now, just like it was fully locked up last year in the summertime. It just seems to me that it is right now a little bit as well, when you look at the fact that not really anything else is happening around this Dame Lillard situation. He just is such a valuable player and of such an important and big dollar amount cap piece to where you almost don't want to move if you're other teams, because whatever it is that you're about to trade could be worth much less next week or much more next week, or however this looks once you see this transaction takes place and you see what Dame goes for, you see what Harden goes for. It's like, I don't want to go shopping right now if the price on what I'm buying is going to be half off next week after that trade. So these type of things are possible, and because of it, nobody's shopping. And so that's the holdup in my mind on Christian Wood, Bol, PJ Tucker. Not PJ Tucker, but yeah, why not? I think, is he signed somewhere? Yeah, he's with the Sixers, but that's not who I was trying to say. He just came to mind, but just about everybody who's on the free agency market. I was talking about PJ Washington. That we're just trying to basically wait on those trades to go through so that we know ultimately what those guys are going to get paid, etc. So that could be something that doesn't happen very fast, and that's why I'm wondering if we can consider this a market lock, because Dame doesn't necessarily have to be traded before the season starts, especially looking at what the trade kind of rumors have been, which is Miami doesn't have anything worth trading for, and Dame's representation is trying to force him there by way of their rhetoric and what they're telling teams. So this situation with Christian Wood and our center position, and these guys may have to just go ahead and just take a bag with however it goes, whoever's going to offer them something, just to be certain to be a part of a team and have a training camp for themselves. Because right now, there's a good chance they may not get one if they're going to be in this holding pattern. Like those guys not going to have a team to start the season. And so that can make this very interesting. Now, I'm not saying I've read anything that states that. I'm just telling you that's what the tea leaves are showing me. That these guys are way too talented for that. So that's the situation there. Paul Reed's situation was resolved because it was a restricted free agency situation. So the Utah Jazz essentially just gave them an offer sheet, gave Reed an offer sheet, and of course they signed it. The Sixers actually matched that. So I don't know if that has any influence on the market in any way. Maybe they just went ahead and did what they had to do. But this free agency situation seems to be a bit jammed up. And so if I'm reading the tea leaves right now in regards to Dame Lillard, I honestly think that the Henderson shoulder injury is something that could throw a monkey wrench in what people are looking at. That's what I honestly think. If you're of the mindset that you need to move on from Dame Lillard and he goes down with this injury, you start wondering what happens if he gets off to a slow start. You start wondering what happens if Scoot Henderson's not necessarily turning into anything that would even remotely resemble the greatness of Dame Lillard. And you start wondering if you left a championship on the table. You start wondering if you couldn't have got the best trade for Scoot Henderson as a rookie before you went down that road. There are a lot of different things that this particular injury could bring forth in regards to those who were behind the scenes in Portland. Now, a lot of people believe that injury is a fake injury or that it's very minor. I think it's a good chance that's a minor injury. That's a very tough dude, to say the least. But even if it isn't, the whole overall risk of turning the keys over to a rookie and getting rid of Dame Lillard, who's been in place as a superstar, who you do have this respect level with, and people want to see you do right by him, etc. You don't want to take back a trade that's going to make you worse, and then furthermore double down on that risk when you get rid of a guy like Dame Lillard and let Scoot take over. That Grant contract, again, is something that is now in place that needs to be considered in regards to this. Are you winning now? If so, your return has to be a reflection of that. And if it is, why are you getting rid of Dame Lillard? You know what I mean? You're not necessarily getting back anything better than Dame Lillard in trading Dame Lillard. So their situation doesn't really make any sense. And the best thing they probably could have did for themselves was probably trade the pick and not keep Scoot Henderson if they wanted to ultimately resolve all of this with the Grant contract. Now, clearly, you don't really look at that Grant contract as a good contract at all, but I've been mulling over what it is that his value is in this league, and you really have to weigh it against his defense and what he's ultimately going to do over the next several years for them as a defensive stopper. Even if he doesn't hit another jumper, if he never scores over 26 points, he's always going to be somebody they can count on defensively to be an enforcer. And so that's what the Nuggets were ultimately trying to replace when they brought in Gordon, when Grant went off to Detroit. So you know what he can do defensively. It's already been proven, and Portland values that at such a level that they paid him $160 million on a 5-year deal. Now, I'm not saying he's not worth the dollar amount. I'm just saying 5 years is a hell of a lot. That's a hell of a commitment to give to that player. But when you look at his defensive resume, couple that with his offensive potential at times, one could argue that he's of that caliber to some degree. But the contract years on there just inflate the dollar amount even more. And it's just very much something to consider when you're trying to figure out whether or not Portland has something good there with that piece. So I've been giving it some thought, and it's still bad. It's maybe not as bad as I've been saying it is, but it's bad. That's not a good contract. And most importantly, their timeline, if they're going to go forward and moving on from Dame, doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. Now, granted, you got Shaedon Sharpe in place. I think moving forward with Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson is fantastic. But not if I'm moving on from Dame and bringing back half of what he's worth. You see what I'm saying? It then becomes a situation where I'm like, all right, if my emotions are not involved and I got to choose between what it is that I have that I need to move on from, the risk seems more so right now to me that they move forward with the youth movement only because of the attachment of Grant's contract not making sense after moving on from Dame. It just doesn't make any sense, man. You got this big old contract that likely no one's going to touch. That's a win now contract that it's just not going to be useful when you've got kids developing in place. He's just sitting there waiting for these dudes to develop. And if he wants to ride away doing that in Portland, that's his right. But at the same time, is that amount of the cap really best for that type of player to be eating up while these kids are developing? And the answer is probably not. Same with Simons. Probably not. I think Simons he makes a bit more sense just because he's a heck of a talented guard who can probably kind of fit in a little more at that price range, given the fact that there's a year off of that contract. It's only 3 years on it. I can argue he's worth every coin of that. So, you just got to put him in the right position, and he'll outplay that dollar amount for sure, in my opinion, Anthony Simons. So I like him in that mix as a talent, just in general, but it just becomes a situation where you look at the Jeremy Grant contract and say, that's a lot of my cap going to those two players. That's really where it comes down to for me. With me having Scoot to pay, likely if he balloons into who he is supposed to be, he's going to need to get his 260. And in Shaden Sharp, we could already see as well on his way to his 260. So now it's like, all right, I'm moving on from those two players at some point anyway. Unless those contracts just fade. I can imagine Simon's contract probably would be done at the same time Shaden's up to get paid or something like that. So that may not be much of a problem there. But as I look at them, the Nurkic contract, I'd rather that move on. But that's just what I've been saying the whole time. Maybe they feel differently about Nurkic. He's been there for some time, so maybe they love him there. I'm cool with that. But once Dame's out, he should be out too. He should be on his way out. So, yeah, man, I'd probably trade them together, honestly. I would. Yeah, that's a lot of salary moving, but at the same time, you can handle a lot of problems in a big trade like Dame's trade. So I'd imagine that that's not going to be the only problem that gets solved amongst the teams that get involved. You're going to see some big contracts finally get the hell out of some places that should have been out of a long time ago. I'm telling y'all, that's what type of trade this Dame contract is about to be. Moving is about to be. I look at that Philadelphia. I want to skip off to them. Their situation's a bit weird, just like the Houston situation's a bit weird. When you look at their teams, you can just tell they're not done. It's not even about whether or not they have too much of any one thing. You can clearly see they're set up to make a trade. And so that's what I look at in regards to Philly. Philly is set up to make a trade. Houston's still set up to make another trade. And we'll see if they do that. Also, Houston's team doesn't look that bad to me now that they have what they have on the floor. In Summer League, it looks good. I think those pieces are going to translate to be fantastic pros regardless. Green coming back this year. Got to see how he's playing. If he's improving, he likely will. He's probably going to make a huge jump, actually. KPJ should likely be moved somewhere within this offseason. I cannot see them bringing back Kevin Porter Jr. and asking him to play with Amen Thompson and with Fred VanVleet. That doesn't really add up to me at all. He's too talented of a player to be in that role. Just simply too talented. And if you put him in that role, you're likely going to Dennis Schroeder him. That's what I think ends up happening. What that means is he gets typecast into a role like that and then probably can't get the money he's supposed to be getting as a player who's going to be a bit better if he keeps developing as a lead guard. So that's what I'm wondering about with KPJ. Is his career off to the wrong path because of the team that he's now found himself on with the Rockets and having all these high-level guards in place? So that's my thing with the Rockets. They're still poised to make a trade, essentially what I'm telling everybody. Philly and the Rockets likely with one another. With that James Harden deal. Now, I don't know if they're looking to move on from all or any of those young guys that we see on the Summer League, but I do know that they've already gotten rid of some. And Philly would love to take their hands on a couple of them if they have to move on from James Harden. That's what James Harden should get you, is something like what the Houston Rockets have. So I'm just curious to see if they'll throw somebody in. Like I said, that Tobias Harris contract is an expiring contract at $35 million. If I'm a win-now team like the Houston Rockets, and I don't care nothing about youth, like it looks like they don't, I wouldn't mind taking James Harden and Tobias Harris. And the reason why is because that, of course, is coming off the books next year. Tobias Harris, boom, that frees up $35 million for me to go get somebody else next year to bring to James Harden, Fred VanVleet, you know what I mean? And maybe I even resign Tobias Harris at a lesser deal. And I got a nice win-now team that can go off into the sunset, possibly contend with everything else that's out there. So I don't know if the Rockets want to go full Monty in regards to moving on from all of their young players. But if they were decide to do something like that with the Philadelphia 76ers, they would still have some young players left over even after doing that. Because that's how rich in picks and young players that the Rockets actually are. They probably still keep Sengun in that situation. They probably still keep Jabari Smith in that situation. You know what I mean? But they probably would likely move on from Green and some Eason and probably Whitmore in that situation. Those guys probably be headed to Philly. So that's just my brainstorm. I ain't heard no rumors like that. I'm not telling anybody that's happening. I'm just saying that in the event that much salary is moved, I'm going to want that type of talent in return if I'm the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, how you make the numbers make sense? Don't know. But that is how we're going to do that if I'm on the other side of it and I'm Daryl Morey. And given the fact that he does have ties in Houston, I don't know how positive they are at this point. I could totally see them making a deal like that to bring Joel Embiid, some of those young players that are up there. Terry Eason, Jalen Green, KPJ. Replace all that. Replace James Harden and Tobias Harris with a fleet of young talent. That would be great for the Philadelphia 76ers. Absolutely great for them. And like I said, for the Houston Rockets, you got a team with some guys down there that can win. You probably still got Sengun and James Harden and Fred VanVleet. That's a playoff team, yo. That's a playoff team. You keep Jabari Smith in that situation. That's a real playoff team. Now, I'm not saying that I like them more than I like the team that they had with all the young talent, but you've effectively turned young talent into win-now talent that should be able to do some damage. I don't know if you're as win-now as you want to be, but you can sauce up that trade to look better than what I made it. And you still got Dylan Brooks, who's obviously a player who's going to play some defense, even though, and you got some other things going on. Jeff Green, people seem to be high on Jeff Green. I know better, but, expiring contract, probably get traded in the deadline or something. But, people like old man Jeff, so that's a good win-now player. What else they put together, man? I don't know. Whatever else is on their team. Landau, So I think they feel pretty good about their team, even if they deplete themselves of more of their young players. I don't have to necessarily love that, but I can see a world where they're happy with bringing James Harden back, bringing Tobias Harris in, you know what I mean, just for a 1 year kind of rental, not necessarily to help you, just to free up that $35 million in the next year so you can bring in somebody else to pair next to James Harden and ride off into the sunset with Sengun and with Jabari Smith still getting better, still growing into all-stars, both of them. Now, I don't know if I'm Philly, I'd do that deal without bringing in Jabari, but I'm definitely not going to get Sengun off you because obviously I got Joel. So that deal can still get done. You know what I mean? And this is one of the only people who are probably going to not demand Sengun from you. There's a team that has a center in place. So that's what I say to the Houston Rockets. I know people are saying he's still going back to L.A. to play with the Clippers. But to be honest with you, if I'm the Philadelphia 76ers, I'm having a hard time doing a deal with the Clippers. Because I know the Clippers don't want to move on for Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. And they want to pair James Harden with those two. And I have there's nothing on your roster that makes me want to do a deal with you if I'm Philly. If I'm the Clippers. You don't have nothing. If you're the Clippers, rather. So that's the problem. It's the same issue with Dame going to the Heat. It's the problem that the Clippers have with James Harden going there. What's the trade? You throwing in James or not? I mean, if you're throwing in Paul George, or not. That's what I'm trying to say. Because if you're not throwing in Paul George, you're likely not getting James Harden. You know what I mean? And so I'm not saying Paul George would likely land in Philly. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But that value, you coming off of that. And we're either going to take it or we're going to send it somewhere else and get back what he's worth. But, yeah, the Clippers don't have nothing. What, you can give me Zubats? That's cool. And what else? When you start talking about what else, then you start getting into what the Clippers actually have, and you find out they don't really have anything that you're going to want in a trade like that. And even though James Harden's value is considered down, not really. Not honestly. When you start talking about the trade value that you think he's going to bring to a team like the Clippers, nah. They're going to have to pay a real substantial price for him, especially at a $34 million contract price. He's worth more than that. So Clippers got to pay that. And because of it, I think that's why you haven't seen a deal. I don't think you're going to find a deal either because at the end of the day, the Clippers don't even have anything that would entice a third team to want to make a deal with him. They don't really have. I'm telling y'all, Terrence Mann is a player they haven't played up to value, right? So you like Terrence Mann, but it's like, I'm not paying full price for him because I know he hasn't shown me that he's worth that yet. Now, I know I'm going to make sure he's worth that when I get him here, but I ain't paying for that price to get him. And so that's what you see a lot of on the Clippers roster. And so the stuff that they would have, like, for example, if they still had Kennard, yeah, go get Kennard. I like Kennard. He's an ascending player. He's getting better. What, am I going to take a couple of their rookies? Give me Kobe Brown. Cool, I'll take him. I'll take. You already sent Coffee away. You sent him off to the Washington. So it's like a lot of what the Clippers have, you don't really know because they just drafted it, or it's some old dudes that Nicholas Batum, Covington. Do they have any value? And so with the Clippers, it's like I don't. You got Zubac, you got Man, but I'm not really coveting either one of them dudes like that. If I'm the field, not really. So, what do you have? And so when the answer comes up, not a whole lot, other than Kawhi and Paul George. I look at a guy like Norman Powell. Okay, Norman Powell. How healthy is he feeling this year? Is he gonna play 40 games? I know he'll play high level when he does, but he's gonna be hurt most of the time. So it's like, how much am I praying for him? If it's, the Clippers just don't have a lot. So Zubac's a hell of a player, but how many teams really need him? Not covetable. So that's what it really comes down to. Clippers are not the greatest trade team. I don't think they can do anything until they get Paul George on that trade block. It's the only way they're going to be able to turn anything that they have into anything at all. Because even Kawhi Leonard, you're going to find out that he doesn't have as much of trade value as people think. Because if I only expect him to play a couple of games, but he's going to be healthy the whole time, whatever, if he ain't playing, then it's just like, bro, no, I'm not trading for him. I'm not giving you anything of value for Kawhi Leonard in 2023. That's not happening. So, yeah, the Clippers trying to acquire James Harden. You are as bad as the Miami Heat. You ain't getting nothing. You're not going to be able to get the guy you want, likely because you don't have anything worth giving away or taking back. You know what I'm trying to say. But either way, hopefully it works out for everybody. I mean, I don't particularly like the Clippers in any way, shape, or form, but I don't like seeing the market locked up like this. And then at the end of the day, guys do got to find teams to start the season. A guy like James Harden does not have forever to play. This might be one of the last seasons he's going to be at this level. So he really needs to get on the team and have a training camp. And I really think these guys, some of these older guys in the league, man, some of the guys from the era that are just underneath my generation, like the James Hardens, these guys, I just think they're asking for the wrong things in their twilight. You want to be on teams that are flexible. You guys are trying to race the teams that don't have a damned thing for themselves at all. And I just feel like the wisdom that's evading them is as soon as those teams get you, now they do. And you're going to get traded. It's like the Clippers going to trade James Harden for sure. As soon as they get him, it's like, yeah, now I got James Harden. Who wants him? Because everything else I have ain't worth nothing. That's the whole point. It's like, maybe I'm wrong about that. But that's the way that I think that should be played. That's how I'd play it. So Dame Harden going to Miami, you ain't going to be there longer than a year and a half, brother. And James Harden going to the Clippers, you ain't going to be there longer than a year and a half, brother, too. And that's it. Because if I have those players on tab, I know I don't have much longer before they start to drop in value. So I better make sure I trade them. I don't love those players. You know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't Portland. I'm the team that just got them. So, bro, I got about 5 more minutes for you being at this level, and you're not gonna keep me from that value. So that's the problem these guys are gonna run into. You want to go to a team that don't have those needs, and these guys are trying to race the teams that do. It's just like I see them running into a wall. They think they're gonna get a championship, man. No, you're gonna get traded for the third time. That's all you're gonna get. In James Harden's case, I guess he's just trying to finish it off in LA. He's from LA. So he wants to finish his career at home, but I think the best way for him to do that is to take him, finish out this contract, and then sign with him in a minimal. You know what I mean? Play up, way up that value so they have no reason to trade you. Or maybe they do if you do that. But then you're going to play yourself into another contract and you will have lived the dream, playing for the LA team and all that other stuff. Either way, I don't know if there's a way to secure that he actually retires in LA. You know what I mean? I don't. If that's what he's aiming for, he's probably going to find the opposite. So I just don't understand it. I just understand these teams. I may not want to live. These guys don't want to live on certain in certain locations, but the best teams are the teams that have been struggling to find the talent because they've been living off everything else the NBA provides. Draft picks and flexibility and play role players that bloom to other stuff because they couldn't get you there because you always wanted to move to Miami, LA. So now, when it's time for you to finish off your careers, you still want to go to Miami and LA, and they got all the stuff that's going to make it so that they not only give you a winning opportunity, but the longevity that you're looking for in one single spot in the NBA. You know what I mean? So it's like, you don't want to go to Indy, you don't want to go to Utah, you don't want to go to San Antonio. Y'all don't want to go to the teams like OKC, who have all the stuff. They got all the stuff, fam. This ain't back in the day where those teams were struggling to find value. They've been loading up. And so now when it's time for y'all to be out of the league, damn near, it's time for you to pick those teams to go to. And so that's what I'm telling the Dames and the James out there. You got to get with the times, man. You're on your twilight, and it's going to be journeyman season for y'all, man. You get a couple more of these injuries that are going to come because these teams are going to overplay you because they don't have nothing else. So, of course, you're going to be out there. You're going to love that because you're going to have 40 minutes a game to showcase your talent, but you're also going to be getting hit 40 minutes a game by dudes that are bigger than you. In the twilight of your career when you've already been on your wheels for how many years? That's why I'm just like, man, what are y'all looking at when you choose these teams, bro? Sunlight? Are you kidding me? Beaches? Bro, you want to retire and really move there, but don't sign up to work there. Damn, you're going to hate it. And that's what I've been telling these guys for the past couple weeks. I hope this message reaches the right peeps. And that's pretty much where my head is, man. I wanted to come back here and complete that video, but since it's an hour later, I don't know that it makes any sense to call it a part 2. I didn't label it a part 1. I just didn't. So I just assume you watch that one and we'll know exactly what's going on there. But yeah, that's where I'm at, man. Y'all know y'all come here for the truth. I think some of the stuff that I've been saying over the last couple of weeks, I'll go over some of that. I don't know if I really agree with everything I've said lately, but all in all, I still have a passion for this league, and I will definitely continue to give you what I have. And I'll try to pay attention to some of these summer league games. I ain't really been able to get into it like I want to outside of the Lakers, of course, and the Spurs, honestly. But all the other teams I really ain't been too interested in watching. And by the way, that Spurs-Portland game was a snooze, man. I was so sleepy watching that. And it wasn't because I was tired. It was because the game was boring until the end. But I'm just saying, man, it's just really fun to watch the Lakers. I don't know if it's going to be all that fun to watch Wembanyama. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if he's a fun player to watch. He may be a dominant player. But in watching him play, I don't know if I was all that excited. Now, that may not mean nothing. It's summer league, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, he has the ability to